Hey everyone, this is going to be a special edition of Extra Seconds this week, because instead of giving you a few extra minutes of extra commentary about Boy Scouts in the Hood, I'm giving you a full hour's worth of discussion this time around. That's a lot for a guy who's used to 60 seconds. I was recently the special guest on the Two Bad Neighbors podcast. The Two Bad Neighbors podcast is a show in which two huge Simpsons fans, Alan and Greg, go through an episode-by-episode retrospective of The Simpsons history. They go through the episode's various references and guest stars, share personal anecdotes, and offer plenty of trenchant insight along the way. Also, Greg fights with his phone. In this episode, I talk a bit about this YouTube channel, how I got into the show, and as an exclusive, reveal my favorite Simpsons episode. See if you can guess what it is in advance. I'll give you a hint. It's one I've reviewed already. In the meantime, here's a quick excerpt from the show.
I guess it's kind of interesting seeing Bart's journey in this episode because he starts obviously, thinking it's like super nerdy and for losers. And then the more he kind of learns, it's like, oh, we have to play with knives? That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and during the entire second act, over a very short period of time, Bart becomes a pretty fantastic outdoorsman, contributing to the theory that Bart is actually a very gifted boy.
Oh, absolutely.
When he is interested.
Yep.
This is why Bart's character in the Golden Age is fascinating to me.
Yeah. There's the itchy and scratchy moment where he's like, should have tied him with a cross hitch instead of a sheet bend.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you what those are right now. I remember those.
I think you quoted it wrong.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So there you go. But those types of knots, I remember learning to tie, and I couldn't tell you what they were, especially on a cartoon. I wouldn't be able to tell. So he's very smart. And
Bart seems to only become really smart though when he realizes what kind of mischief that he can do with it. This stuff is totally pointless to him until he realizes that he can totally destroy his father with this information.
Which is a nice little running game.
No, because he only uses this information against his father when his father's an asshole to him.
Oh god, he's such an asshole in this episode.
Yeah, he's pretty insufferable.
Do you guys? This is a random question. Do you guys think that Homer actually crosses into the line of being jerk-ass Homer in this episode?
I think
when I was watching it back, he's just such an insufferable ass the whole way through. But he still doesn't get to actual jerk-ass territory.
Yeah, I think that it's very close for me. It's on the cusp. I think what makes it work and not become jerk-ass for me is that he's more or less surrounded by multiple other people most of the time, so he never gets to go full jerk-ass, if that makes sense. He's stopped by Ned or Marge or Lisa, and so he gets to that point, even when which is actually one of my favorite parts of the episode, when he first sees Bart reading the knife book, and he's like, oh, it's leader of the Boner Patrol. Boning up on his nerd lessons.
Egghead likes his bookie wook.
Yeah, that's hilarious. But it's such why is he doing that?
He's bullying his son.
His son is just reading a book in his room, and he just comes in hey, look at this idiot, and it's awful, but it's so funny.
Yeah, I think it's the childishness that really works for it, because Dolph and Kearney and Jimbo are basically exactly the same as Homer. Homer is acting like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old child.
Yeah, that's true. And then I think what comes the closest to jerk-ass for me is when they're trying to survive on the raft.
Yep.
When he's
when he's washing his socks.
Yeah, washing his socks and drinking the seawater and all that stuff. When you're just and he's like, oh, excuse me, Mr. Flynn, and this is in your church. Was it one of your church firing?
Yeah. The thing that actually makes that I think not descend into jerk-ass Homer is the fact that it's Flanders.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's who he is.
Yeah, it's kind of accepted
Flanders.
that he will always be that way to Flanders.
Yeah, he's always just awful to Flanders.
And you do get some nice moments of Homer as well in the episode, even though it's mostly him being an asshole. When he gives Bart the knife, even though he stole it from Ernest Borgnine, and leading them to safety with his nose, his sniffer, and yeah, so it's not. There's never a point for me where it's oh, he's just being a jerk for no reason. It's not necessarily deserved, but it's understandable at least with the character.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad, but he is. There's no doubt about it that he's an asshole in this episode.
If you'd like to hear the full episode, check out the links in the video below, or look for them in iTunes or SoundCloud. A big thanks to Alan and Greg for inviting me on the show this week. I had a ton of fun shooting the breeze about this episode. As for our upcoming YouTube schedule, I'll see everyone next time for a spooky Simpsons treat.